student one.
Oh, okay.
So
Still
not
pretty young.
so they don't even read yet. So it's pretty tough to bring them to movies lah. Yeah.
So Khairie, you spoke to the Tabung Haji CEO, Dato' Johan bin Azam and Jose. So how do you think about this guy?
Well, he certainly is very sharp from what we gathered. And during the conversation, it was obvious that he has done his research. He has done his analysis, as he said, of what Tabung Haji is and what its investments are. And I think he has a very clear idea of where he wants Tabung Haji to go. And in his own words, he wants to move towards more stability, to have the income be a bit more recurring. So in that sense, he does have his plan, and now I think the main question is how he's going to execute it. So
Now, actually, CI, when we look at the market was so bad. Market is still very bad. Ringgit tanked to I don't know how many year or how many month low. So is he actually concerned or worried about the whole market? And how is he going to put their investment into certain sectors?
Well, I suppose it is quite a concern, isn't it? With the ringgit where it is now, I don't think it's a good idea for any fund, let alone something as important as Tabung Haji in terms of its depositor profile, to go overseas. But I think in the long run, when their currency has stabilized, he is looking at more exposure overseas, especially property. He did mention Australia, where he's already built a pipeline. He's talking about London, for example, where there are some interesting niche that TH Properties, their unit, could go into.
Correct. So property, when we talk about property, we think of TRX, Tun Razak Exchange, right?
Yes.
And what happened was Tabung Haji actually bought a piece of land from 1MDB a couple of years back for about 2,700 over ringgit per square foot.
Yeah.
And a lot of people actually argue that it's so much more expensive than the price that 1MDB paid when they bought it from the government, about 60 over ringgit per square foot. So what is his argument on this?
Well, he did address that, and he was quite open about it.
Yeah.
When we asked him, he immediately said, "Do you want the history or do you want the plans?" So, what he saw in terms of the pricing was that he argued that the pricing to him is not so much a matter of the cost to 1MDB, but can they make money out of that price? And he did give us an interesting analogy. Say, let's say according to his own words, let's say you're buying a durian by the road, right? You don't ask the seller what his cost was. You inspect the goods, see it, and if you're satisfied that it's worth the price you're paying for, you buy it, right?
Just like what we say just now, if you buy a cup of coffee from KKC or a cup of coffee from Starbucks, you don't really, you don't really ask the cost, how much is the margin and stuff like that.
Exactly. And the question is, are you willing to pay this price, and is it worth the money? So to him it is, and he does have some grand plans for it, apparently. According to him, they're looking at high-end residentials. They're ironing out the details at the moment, but the gist of the plan is that this is going to be the stepping stone for Tabung Haji to get into the high-end property niche.
So when we talk about high-end, we think of residences like St. Regis or Renaissance or even Four Seasons.
Yep.
So how are we going to relate Tabung Haji with signature brands like all these hotel? It's very difficult to imagine it or even visualize it, because Tabung Haji is somewhat quite a very traditional brand, like since, I don't know, 1940s or 1960s. It's already so long, decades long. So how are they going to actually go into the luxury brand sector?
I suppose that is an interesting question. Now, we didn't get to go too deep into that with him. So my interpretation of what he said is that it seems that this high-end branding is more to do with their business division in regards of property. And of course, it doesn't really naturally connect with what people's idea of Tabung Haji is. It safeguards people's savings for pilgrimage to Mecca. So it's basically faith money. And on one hand, you have high-end branding. So I guess what he intends to have is for the property division to slowly move into the higher-end niche.
So it's only TH Property, not the entire group.
Yes, and of course, as a lot of developers would say, the higher-end segment carries better margins, better profits. So I guess it's part of his rebalancing of his portfolio.
Now, many people actually argue that or question that they have been paying a very high payout rate. Is this sustainable? Did you ask him this?
Of course, and he was quite frank about it. And in fact, he started off the interview by discussing what the basics and core objective of Tabung Haji was. which is to safeguard people's money. And of course, according to the Act, Tabung Haji's deposits are guaranteed by the government. So if, say, anything were to happen to Tabung Haji tomorrow, the government will return all your money. No questions asked. That said, he intends to bring dividend payouts to a more sustainable level.
Tabung Haji was very big in oil and gas sector as well, about 5.5% right now. They pared down quite a bit of stake from in Perisai as well, but they still have quite a bit of investment in USMA, Rich Energy, Alam Maritime. So did he say that they want to move away from this sector?
In a nutshell, he did. If it's 5.5% now, after the oil price plunge, which began in June 2014, you can imagine how big the exposure was back then. At some point, I think during our research, we found that Tabung Haji has substantial stakes in 10, 15 oil and gas counters, which is quite surprising because you would think that you would pick champions or just a few selected counters as opposed to having exposure in all. Sort of like hedging your risk kind of thing. So according to Johan, going forward, because of the downturn, they're looking to stay away a bit and maybe in terms of their existing investments, look at how to preserve the value and maybe even grow the value even further to recoup some of their investments.
For more on the stories, pick up a copy of The Edge Weekly at all good newsstands.